Good afternoon to you. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com, here with your Hurricane Pro and HD video blog for Monday, August 15th, 2016. Here we are at the beginning of the ramp-up in hurricane activity overall. From here on out, things should get busier and busier, at least according to climatology. These next 60 days or so will define the season. You can see a bulk of the action is between August 15th and the end of October. And this 10-day time period in the Atlantic Basin, overall this is a busier area than the Eastern Pacific. More dots over this time period in the Atlantic than we have seen in the Pacific. And so this is it. These next 60 days are going to define, I do believe, which makes sense, right? Because after October and we get into November, things usually start calming down quite a bit. So this should be, what if it's going to happen, this is when it's going to happen, put it that way. Looking at the anomalies for today in the Western Hemisphere, pretty cold along the equatorial region of the Pacific. Cooled off a little bit compared to average in the northeast Gulf of Mexico, thanks to that disturbance that came along and disturbed the water. Rained a lot on it, and then it went over this way and dropped unbelievable amounts of rain over Louisiana and parts of Mississippi. A very unfortunate situation unfolding there still. Meanwhile, out in the tropical Atlantic between Africa and the Lesser Antilles, this entire box now shaded in with positive anomalies, getting close to a degree Celsius overall on average across that entire span of water, expanse, that's the word I'm looking for, above the long-term average, 1 degree Celsius. Doesn't sound like much, but that is a lot of extra energy that's in the water. All right, the upper ocean heat content value is also quite high, especially here in the western part of the Atlantic Basin. Simply put, this means there is plenty of warm water, and in some cases several hundred meters deep, not only at the surface. So if you have a hurricane coming along, or even a tropical storm, and it churns up the water, it's just churning up more warm water. So everything is set, for the most part, at least water temperature-wise, for it to be a very busy season, especially compared to where we have been these last few years. When I say very busy, I don't mean 15 hurricanes or anything like that, but even if we see 6 or 7 more hurricanes, that's going to seem very busy, believe me, because it's been so inactive as of late. In the Gulf of Mexico, actual sea surface temperatures, this coloring in here, greenish color, 30 degrees Celsius, or about 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Again, the northern Gulf Coast up here along the shelf water cooled off pretty quickly because of the heavy rainfall and the disturbed weather that moved through, but that'll rebound fairly soon, I'm sure. Off the east coast of the U.S., very warm water temperatures, the 80-degree line, or 26 degrees Celsius, all the way up here, pretty much knocking on the door of Long Island and extreme southern New England. Parts of Long Island Sound in here are close to 80 degrees. Very warm in the Chesapeake Bay and the Pamlico Sound. All of this area through here above normal by a couple of degrees Celsius. So this is it. I mean, if we get a hurricane running up the East Coast, it's going to be problematic for sure, because there is a lot of extra energy available, and hopefully people are going to be paying attention. There's a lot of other distractions going on in our world today, and we haven't had to deal with hurricanes in quite a while, it seems. Even though it's only been a few years. You think about Sandy coming up on 4 years ago. Well, that's a long time, right? And really nothing since then to sort of take our attention from elsewhere and place it back on hurricanes. Nothing really to worry about today. We do have this area out here, Invest Area 98L. 50% chance of development over the next 5 days. More than likely, if this goes on to develop, it'll head on out into the open Atlantic, something like this. There's enough of a weakness in the ridge out here that's what I'm thinking early on. Although it is centered just south of 10 degrees latitude here, and that's fairly low. Didn't come off up here. So we'll see how far west it gets before it tries to develop. And most of the computer models are showing that this will develop over time. There it is, down well to the southwest of the Cape Verde Islands, moving off to the west-northwest. Very dry air to the north. You can even see that in this satellite picture, indicated by the lack of convection and sort of this low cloud, milky color in here. Very dry mid-level air, but to the south, that's where the system is located. I'll zoom in on it. And most of the computer models saying this will curl up and do its thing as it moves on off to the west-northwest. Plenty of time to watch it. It'll be coming into an area of generally favorable upper-level winds. All this green in here indicating, and by the way, this is from the University of Wisconsin Cooperative Institute for Meteorological Satellite Studies, and that's an awesome product, especially now that they've color-coded it to show green for go and red for stop, right? And the western Atlantic, though, the flow here is basically cyclonic all through here. Draw some little arrows on here for you. Cyclonic flow, counterclockwise flow in the upper atmosphere, sinking air, wind shear, not favorable for development, but 98L sitting out here has a large area of real estate to move into where it could develop further, so we'll keep an eye on that. Nothing closer to the United States or the Caribbean islands, etc. for now, and the eastern Pacific for the most part has calmed down, so we'll see if the Atlantic begins to take over. All right, well, that'll be it from me for today, and we'll keep a watch on 98L, and so I'll be back on Wednesday. We'll see how that develops since it's not close to home. We won't be doing these every day just yet for you, but if it gets to be more interesting, then you bet I'll be here every day putting a blog post up for you, video discussion-wise, to highlight what's happening out there. So have a great rest of your Monday afternoon. As always, thanks for tuning in. I am Mark Sudduth for HurricaneTrack.com, my website, and of course for Hurricane Pro and HD. I'll talk to you again on Wednesday.